The book is called Sideswiped. It's by Pastor Michael Voll. It is a story about his life, shock, sadness, and suffering. And the book, three keys, encouragement here, three keys to a fresh start after suffering a broken heart. Michael, welcome. It's good to have you. Welcome, Pastor Michael Voll.
Thank you very much.
We just met each other and read portions of the book, and I just want to go, oh, buddy, oh, dear brother, bless your heart. Tell everyone what happened.
Well, I got married when I was fairly young and got married to my high school sweetheart, Sherry Voll, and we had dated for 4.5 years and then got married. We were married for 4.5 years. We were active in ministry at Broadway Church in Vancouver, British Columbia. I was the youth pastor there. She was doing some university. And life was going wonderful for us. It seemed like everything we touched turned to gold. We were enjoying our lives, making plans for the future. And then one day we took a drive to Kelowna. We were going there to pick up a table and chairs from my grandma. She was downsizing, and she was going to give it away to us. We really didn't have any furniture to speak of at that point, and we were driving over the Coquihalla, and on December 1st, 2001, all of a sudden we hit some black ice and started to slide sideways. And I really knew in that moment, as we were sliding towards the snowbank, that life would never be the same. It was as if in that moment the Lord just gave me something where I realized that it would never be the same. We went down a steep embankment, rolled several times, and when we came to a stop, my worst fears ever were realized. There beside me sat my beautiful wife, my best friend, and there she was slumped against her side of the vehicle, really blood everywhere, broken, and she died shortly thereafter.
It's been 15 years.
It's been 14 years.
14 years.
This December 1st.
And it's ever real.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done people who are going through grief and loss and suffering a great service by writing this book. You're a pastor. You're an associate pastor and one of the teaching pastors at North Pointe Community Church here in Edmonton.
Yes.
You are an adjunct faculty member at Vanguard College. You've got a great personality, a great presence. You're very gifted. But in this pain, you found some time to be alone and process this. And fast forward now through these years, you've written this book, and it really captures what God's taught you in the process. You call the book Sideswiped. Is that's what happened with the accident, and is that how you felt? What was going on in your life just came out of nowhere?
Yeah, I think that for most of us, when we experience a traumatic event, you can never prepare for it. Whether that's a car accident or whether that's a diagnosis, it always seems to catch us by surprise. And I think that the younger that we are, the worse it is. You know, you feel like you're indestructible. And there I was at 25 years old thinking that nothing could stand in our way. And then out of nowhere, seemingly nowhere, that sideswipe occurred. And it changed my whole trajectory. That all of a sudden, I realized that life would never be the same.
Right.
And life wasn't the same. There were a lot of changes that happened. There was a lot of grief that had to be processed. There were a lot of plans that had to be put aside. And so it does. And I think for most people, the thing that they're going to resonate with this book is the fact that they would say the same thing, that, yeah, I was sideswiped by this diagnosis or by that loved one that was lost. And a lot of times it leaves us reeling, and we're not really sure what to do with it.
As you have dealt with grief through these years, and you talk to other people who've dealt with grief, are there different ways that people process grief, or is there uniformity, similarities, and differences at the same time?
Well, one of the things that I've found is that there really is no manual for grief. People grieve in different ways, but there are certainly some things that seem to be common to people, that whether they they process for the same amount of time, or whether they go in a sequential order. There are going to be some things, for example, most people are going to go through a time of numbness, or where they almost are in denial that this is even happening. There's going to be a time of real questioning often, where you ask questions: why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? When that person was alive, why didn't I take that opportunity? And certainly I went through a lot of that. Yeah. Often anger is a part of it, because anger really is a response when we don't get our way. And quite frankly, when a sideswipe or when we're going through grief, it's because things haven't gone our way. We've lost someone or something, and things aren't going our way. And then depression is also one of those things. And I certainly processed all of that.
Michael, when something happens to someone like you, and maybe someone like me hasn't been through that, maybe been through something, but not anything like losing a spouse tragically as you did, I want to help, I want to reach out, but I know in my own life I've had people that have come to me during my tough times, and they've said some things, and some things were helpful, and yet some things were hurtful, and I don't think that was the intent of some. So kind of help us navigate as to what is the appropriate way to respond to someone who's gone through this sudden, devastating loss. How can we help and not hurt?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I had so many wonderful people around me that really did carry a lot of the weight for me and help me through some very dark days. And I think all of us, we want to help, you know. We want to say that right thing that's going to bring comfort. But often what I've found, the most important thing that you can do is just to love. In fact, because I was a pastor at the time, and in a fairly high-profile church, a lot of people knew me. Before I came back after the accident and the funeral and memorial, the senior pastor actually prepped the congregation and said, you know what, when you see Mike, he's probably going to be here next week. Why don't you just go up to him, give him a hug, tell him you love him, and then go your merry way. Don't give him any advice. Yeah. And
don't do I love you plus.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of times
it's the pluses where I get in trouble.
It's the plus where we all get in trouble. And I'll tell you, that was the biggest gift I could have ever received. I mean, I was a puddle, I was a mess after that, but I just felt so loved and cherished. And I knew that they were praying for me. I knew they cared for me, and I knew that they were processing grief as well. So I think that sometimes it's not so much what we say, but just the fact that we are there for them, that we can even be in a room with a person who's grieving. Sometimes I wanted to tell stories about Sherry, and I wanted people to bring up her name. I wanted them to share, you know, some of the things that they miss about her. Every time her name was mentioned, I actually lit up a little bit, and I think people were afraid of that. You know, if I talk about her,
it's okay to laugh or smile.
And so often I would go into a room and maybe a birthday party was going on, and I would just tell a story. You know, if Sherry was here, you know, she would do this, or I would say, you know, I remember the one time when she did this or this, and you could just see there was just a collective it's okay. Yeah. And I think that those are some of the things that we need to do.
You are a preacher, pastor, teacher, a compelling communicator. How did this sideswipe impact you as a communicator, as someone who would prepare messages to challenge people in life? How did it impact you as a way you related to people one-on-one in the pastorate, but also on that platform and that spotlight?
Sure. You know, it was an absolute 180-degree shift. All of a sudden, I understood grace. I'm not sure that I actually understood grace before I went through this sideswipe.
You preached about grace,
I
you read
preached
about grace.
All those things, but when I was the recipient of grace, Sherry's family showed grace to me. Yeah. They loved me, even though I felt unlovable. And I think that the grace of other friends when I was at my worst and perhaps would say or do things that just seemed out of character and seemed like things that shouldn't be done, but I was grieving so heavy, and yet they loved me through that. And I think that grace and the compassion has helped me so much as a pastor, where when people share something with me, I am not judgmental. I just want to love on them, because I know that when I was a recipient of love, I blossomed. That's how I grew. Yeah. And so it comes through in my communication. It comes through in my counseling, that there is this grace and this compassion and this love that I don't think I had in the measure that I have it now. Yeah.
So let's fast forward to today. Mm-hmm. Where is life today? Did the Lord bring someone else into your life? Is there what's on the other side of this sideswipe?
Yeah.
That you experienced 14 years ago?
You know, the beautiful thing is that we serve a God who can take the ashes of our life, the broken pieces of our life, and he can make something beautiful. And he did that in my life. In fact, he brought a woman, Melissa Beck, into my life, and a girl from here in Edmonton. And in fact, that's what brought me to Edmonton. I ended up moving from Vancouver here to Edmonton to get married. She is an absolute rock. You know, it takes quite a personality, quite a strong woman to be able to be with someone who has loved before and has loved deeply.
And communicates about it publibly, even in this kind of form. Has to be a very secure, special woman.
She is amazing. Yeah. She has taught me so much. She has been the most amazing gift in my life.
When did the two of you get married?
So we got married in December of 2004, so just shortly, 3 years after the accident. And God has just restored so much to me. I now have two wonderful children. Aubrey is 7, Zane is 5. And we are just enjoying our time at North Pointe Community Church, being able to minister. You know, at one point I didn't know if I'd ever pastor again.
Sure, you thought.
And God has just restored so much that was lost.
Michael Voll, thank you so much. The book is available at our e-store. You see it there on the screen, but in just a moment, you're going to see something else there on the screen. It's a phone number. It's a prayer line. Hundreds of people every single day call that prayer line from various places across Canada, the United States, or all over the world. They call the prayer line because they have a need. And maybe for you, as you watch this in your hotel room this morning or tonight, as you are there in your home, your apartment, as you are maybe sitting at a Starbucks and watching on your phone with your earbuds in, recently you've been sideswiped. Something shocking and unexpectedly has entered into your life. And just like that, things change. And you've heard Michael's story. You heard what he had to say, and you find it so very, very compelling. I do want you to get the book. But I also want to say to you that if you want to pray with someone, if you want to just have someone listen, just listen graciously and just say, hey, we love you. And not we love you plus. Love to say we love you and to take an open Bible and just share some scripture with you about your pain, your loss, your suffering, your anger, and just offer a word of encouragement to you before you go on your journey. Would you call us now? You see the number there. It's the most important number for 100 Huntley Street that we have, and we would love for you to call. Today, wherever you are in the journey, God loves you. Jesus Christ died for you. And today would love to be involved in a relationship with you for eternity. Call the number on the screen, would you? Michael, thank you so very, very much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
God
bless
bless you. Michael Voll, everyone.